name is Will, and welcome to my channel. I've lived in 7 countries in 5 years, and yes, I'm still traveling. I'm currently in the country of Suriname, which is on the northeast tip of South America. I've been here now for 2 weeks, and all I really know about this country is that it is one of the most ethnically diverse countries in the world. So I decided to elicit a little bit of help from my friend Euridice, who is a history teacher, and hopefully we will have an amazing tour today to learn as much as we possibly can about this amazing country. Many people tried to conquer and dominate Suriname, but what happened?
Many Europeans came and tried to colonize, but a lot of them failed. English and the Dutch, they were at war, and when they were at war, they tried to take each other's colonies. So the Dutch took over from the British over here, and that was in 1667.
I have one more question. Who is this beautiful woman that we're looking at right here, this statue?
This is a statue of a former queen of the Netherlands.
Her name is Wilhelmina, like me, William, Wilhelmina. So
The statue stood on the Independence Square. It had another name then, but when we gained independence in 1975, it was moved over here.
one fact about the fort, it was built strategically here on the port because the ships arrived from that direction from the Atlantic Ocean. I've just been told a very funny story about a French colonel named Cassave. He managed to actually enter into Suriname by actually evading cannon fire. He realized, the sneaky bastard, that he could be on the other side of the port far enough away that cannon fodder couldn't reach him. He came into the city and ended up blackmailing the city and said, look, if you want me to leave, you gotta pay me. And they did. They paid him and he left. I see a lot of Dutch influence here in Suriname. So I'm wondering, when exactly did the Dutch actually colonized Suriname, and when did it end?
Came and colonized in 1667. Were here until 1975. That's the year that we gained independence.
Talking about independence, we're now in Independence Square. So is there a story behind this?
The square, its original name was Oranje Plein, translated into Orange Square, reminiscent of the Dutch. But we gained independence on the 25th of November 1975, and we changed the name into Independence Square.
Behind me, this beautiful building is the presidential palace, but it was where the governor stayed during colonization. But to this day, it's only used for special events and other things like that. Another fact that I learned from my historian friend is that unlike the United States, the Dutch implemented a system of integration with their former slaves, where they had to learn to speak Dutch, they weren't allowed to keep their own culture, and they also learned from the British to drive on the wrong side of the road. So behind me, I'm going to explain these 3 buildings. First, there are the judicial offices, which is the forest building over there. The next is the House of Finance. And if you're American, I'm sure you recognize this style of architecture. And then to my left is an actual home of an actual plantation owner. Behind me, this beautiful white building you see with the fresh coat of paint is the National Assembly building, which actually burned down and has been rebuilt. The foundation and the stairs you see in the front are actually from the original building. One of the most amazing things about Suriname is the fact that you can have a Jewish temple right next to a Muslim mosque, and they even share a parking lot. How awesome is that? This is one of the oldest Christian churches here in Suriname. It was built in 1778. And what was the name of it again?
Grote Stadskerk.
Thank you. Grote Stadskerk. best place if you want to buy souvenirs is here at Ready Taste. This is artwork of the Maroon people, or the Bushinenge. They were the same group of people that escaped slavery and fled to the deep jungle. And this is actually the oldest church in Suriname. According to the sign, it was built in 1668, and it's a reformed church. So now I've showed you a Jewish synagogue, a Muslim mosque, a Christian church, and now a Hindu temple, and all within just a few blocks of each other. So now I think it's time that we sit down and have a discussion about how this does exist here in Suriname. You know, with all those religious locations that you showed me, it's amazing to understand how does everybody get along here? What's it really like? Because in the United States, we have the dynamic of the black and the white. It's always a power struggle. But here, it seems that people just really are happy and they get along genuinely.
The first people who lived here were the indigenous people. So when the Europeans came, they had to flee to the interior of the jungle. And they started colonization. They used the indigenous peoples as slaves. But then they went to Africa and enslaved the African people here for years. After ending slavery, they were thinking about, the white people were thinking about, how are we going to let them behave? We need to do something to make them behave in a proper way. But between the lines, they were afraid they were gonna, once they are free, they were going to take revenge. Right. So from them to Christianity, where they learned you need to forgive your enemy. You know,
that was very convenient for them.
Yes. And then they came with an assimilation politics, like if we want them to behave a certain way, we have to teach them. And you know, they only saw their way as a civilized way. So you had, people had to behave like the Dutch people. So they began learning the kids, because education for enslaved children was a long time forbidden. But then they said, okay, if we want to make them behave the way we want to, we have to teach, and no better way than through education. So they had to learn how to read and to write Dutch. So when they took away the culture of the enslaved people, it was a long time forbidden. And then when the indentured laborers came, they were allowed to keep their culture, because the Chinese came first before the ending of slavery, and then you had the Hindu people, but they were British citizens. They had to follow the rules of the British, and the Hindu people, they kept their culture. After the Hindu people came the Japanese people, the people from Indonesia, and they were allowed to keep their culture also. The majority of free people stayed in Paramaribo, and with the white people, the indentured laborers were sent to Comawena, a district where they had to work on the plantations. But the city was the center of social and economic activities. So after a while, everybody was coming to the city to work, and everybody wanted a piece of the city. And yes, everybody was allowed to have a piece of the city. So we see that the different cultures came together in the city. And yes, we learned to get along. And yes, we get along pretty well compared to other countries. We get along very well. We have our differences, we have our problems, but overall, we do get along.
Okay, so I think the main theme I want to take from this part of the video is that because all these different ethnicities all had to work under the oppression of one particular group, They all came together to work in harmony and just live their lives and be happy. And it is evident in everywhere you go here in Suriname, people tend to just be very happy and they tend to smile. No matter what you look like, where you're at, and what part of town you're in. It just seems to be that way. I also want to say thank you to my historian friend here for a whole day of going around all the lessons I've learned and all the things. It's truly has been a pleasure. And I thank you. You guys know what to do at this point. If you enjoyed the video, you know what to do. You smash the subscribe button, hit the like, and let's have a discussion about Suriname in the comments. So, goodbye. Goodbye.